Hey there, YouTube squad. It's me, Dan, aka Smash-O-Mash, once again coming at you with the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content. We'll also be talking about Earth weather. As we do, it's a foggy morning. If you didn't see our earlier stream, we were posting vibes, bruh. Vibes. Not like crypto vibes, but like vibes, bro. Some kind of vibes. Because you're always putting out vibes. Whether you're a dildo manufacturer or if you are a human, you're putting out vibes. So there's that. Yeah. Infrared radiation. You're putting some out right now. Different parts of you are emitting different amounts of infrared radiation. Did you? The heck? There's some kind of grease on my face. Pardon my greasy face. I know I look like a jewel, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, you're emitting vibes right now, folks. So make sure you let us know in the comments all about your vibes that you're emitting. Whether those are, maybe you're emitting gamma rays. Definitely tell us if you're emitting gamma rays. We want to know all about that. And please provide a Geiger counter reading for your radiation output. All right, so we're going to put your chats on the screen. We're going to talk space weather, Earth weather, and so on. We're going to put up some imagery of the closest star. First, I might rant about some things. So, many of our viewers who've been on the channel with a long time, they came for the space weather, but they stayed for the rants. So, how about that economy? That economy's doing real good, isn't it? Isn't that economy doing great, folks? The U.S. economy. Wow, what an absolutely fantastic economy that is. Huge AI bubble in the stock market. Huge housing bubble where real estate and rental prices are off the charts expensive. Also, now gas has risen 40 cents in the last week where I'm located. If you think that's worth it. The price of airline tickets is up. Oh no. No, just kidding, folks. The price of airline tickets is actually stable, as if that's some kind of benefit to anybody. Like, really? I've seen the statistics that over half of Americans are unable to afford their own rent. So, yeah, I mean, look, I'll say this. Our finest days lie ahead. So if you're going through hell, keep going. That's a Winston Churchill quote that I like to regularly post. In fact, I've got that one saved in my copy-paste buffer on my keyboard. Because while our finest days lie ahead, doomsday prophets just lie for profit. And clickbait, it's now a way of life. So yeah, we don't engage in too much of that clickbait nonsense. We're going to show Earth weather, space weather, and so forth. Let's talk about X-rays. We ain't got no big flares, only C-class solar flares. And let's take a look at the closest star here from the SDO. Yeah, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And these are not very exciting sunspots, but let's see where that flare did come from. These are not the kind of sunspots that we typically associate with large solar flares, so let's take a look at how about the 131 angstroms? I don't think we showed that yesterday on our daily live space weather stream. So there you go. There's the hottest temperature wavelength that we look at from the SDO or the GOES 19, the 131 angstroms. It's great at showing the orientation of iron ions into these magnetic field lines that you can see around, especially around the active regions. They do show up well around the solar limbs as well. Here you can see these big arcing lines. That's ionized iron at a very specific temperature. I don't recall what the temperature is. Remember, folks, refer to the Einstein quote. never memorize something you can easily look up, right? Your brain has a capacity. You don't really want to waste space. A lot of times people say, "How do you know all that?" I go, "I don't know. I don't keep a bibliography for the information in my brain. That's a little bit too much to ask." But this is ionized iron. It has a certain number of electrons in its outer shell, and it's very hot in the millions of degrees. So yeah, I'll put your chats up here on the screen. Thanks for leaving comments to those of you who have. And don't forget to organize your comments, folks. You may notice at the top of your chat, you may see that there is a little button that you can click that says Top Chat. When you bring the drop-down menu, it says Top Chat, Live Chat, or Fan Funding. So those of us whose fans actually drop super chats, not that we don't get super chats, shout out to Barbarian1111, but for the channels that have far too many comments, some of them sort by super chats. Now what I do is I sort by live chat because that shows me all of the comments. If you don't sort your chat by live comments, you may find that you are not seeing some comments. So occasionally people will be like, "Why don't I see my own comment?" And I think it's because YouTube somehow shows some comments, but not other ones. I see some comments here. Mini Jim says, "I am a booty warrior." Cheers. So have you ever seen the video of the entity coming to the sun and sucking the energy out of it and driving off? No, but I've seen coronal mass ejections, and I've seen solar flares, and I've seen all kinds of different solar prominences and solar coronal plasma filamentary reorientations. But I definitely haven't seen an entity coming to the sun and sucking energy out of it and driving off, since that's not a thing. So yeah, I definitely didn't see that. That would be some kind of fiction from some other channel. We don't do fiction, at least not when it comes to things like space weather, because people are spooked of things that have nothing to do with reality. Oh, a tentacle. Yeah, sure. I'm sure Raymond-I2I9R. If you say so. So yeah, these magnetic fields are not too exciting. And this flare, let's see, it was at like 4 o'clock. Let's see this flare. I bet it's from the northeastern sunspot group. Yep, there it is in the northeast. So that is the most magnetically complex sunspot. A great example of how you can forecast solar flares. So we forecast solar flares based on the magnetic shear, and this is the most magnetically complex sunspot. There it is. It is beta gamma class. It's not what I would call beta gamma delta class, but it does have some areas where there is high magnetic shear, where you see black and white right next to each other, folks. On the SDO HMI instrument, that's what you're looking at. Here are the sunspots in the SDO continuum, which is similar to what you would get if you used a cheap $100 basic solar filter on your backyard telescope. It looks like that group that was in the southern hemisphere is barely even still a sunspot, but there's a new group that's formed right here. So this one wasn't here yesterday, and this one's looking like it has some magnetic complexity. Let's take a look at that in magnetic fields. There's a magnetogram, and whoops, it's not so exciting. It's a beta class sunspot, but just a plain beta class sunspot. The likelihood of large solar flares, it just ain't there, y'all. Cosmic ray flux is at a 22-year low. We haven't seen levels this low since around 2004. Back during cycle 23, which looks like a weaker solar cycle than the current one. Keep in mind, folks, cosmic ray flux is inversely proportional to things like sunspot number and the 10.7 centimeter radial flux, because they are, inverse. When you have a high sunspot number, you tend to have a lot of solar plasma, and the solar plasma acts like a shield. So the similar in the way that Earth's magnetic shield shields the Earth from incoming solar particles, the heliosphere shields the entire heliosphere from incoming interstellar particles. So we're talking about cosmic ray flux, we're talking about the intergalactic solar wind here outside of the heliosphere. When there's a lot of solar plasma, we get low cosmic ray flux. When there is not a lot of solar plasma, we get high cosmic ray flux. The highest we ever had was around 2009 into 2010. That's the highest we've ever measured during the space age, the weakest solar cycle of modern times. But this cycle's nothing like that. It's quite a strong cycle. It's actually stronger from a solar plasma output perspective than solar cycle 23. Don't believe me? Prove me wrong. Raymond I2I9R says, I will not. I can see you are closed-minded. You mean closed-minded? You have your narratives that you are pushing. Kudos to you. I'm not pushing any narratives. I'm interested in actual science and the way things really work. You're talking about some shit that you see on Mr. MBB333's channel or on Gina Maria Colvin Hill's channel, and they're looking at specific spectra, and they're looking at stuff that they definitely don't understand the physics of, and then they're saying, look, it's a spooky spacecraft, entity, extraterrestrial, whatever. It's a demon. Oh no, I'm spooked of a thing that I definitely don't understand. Here's one of our cosmic ray flux producers, the only known cosmic ray point source, Cygnus X3, the high mass X-ray binary. Up in the upper right, you've got the 20+ year graph of its X-rays. Upper left, you have the daily. You would note its 4.6 hour periodicity. And it's a crazy place, that star system, Cygnus X3. The level of violence in Cygnus X3 is shocking. Just shocking. Next, let's see if we have any more CMEs headed toward Earth. Now, NOAA mirrored our forecast later in the day yesterday. So yesterday, I forecasted an incoming stealth CME, and now NOAA agrees. So you can expect to see a solar storm on Friday. Friday, sometime early to midday, we're likely to see an incoming geomagnetic storm. So it's not likely to really produce a lot of aurora for our U.S. viewers, but for those of you viewing from places like Iceland and actually Alaska will probably get some sort of a display, but we're not really expecting any mid-latitude aurorae, and it looks like University of Reading disagrees with this forecast. So this is an interesting time. We should see this time if we and NOAA are correct, and if, University of Reading is incorrect. But there's University of Reading's forecast. And none of those are earthly directed according to them, but I don't know what they're looking at. We looked at Stereo A yesterday. I stick by my forecast. Incoming coronal mass ejection, a solar storm to strike on Friday. Solar wind conditions are, yeah, I agree, Barb. Alaska is on my bucket list. You want to go on an Alaskan cruise? I would tolerate a cruise if it was like from, Seattle to Alaska and back or something. Let's do it. Friday, is that the new British rock group? Oh, nice. Do you enjoy angling? Are you a fisherman? A fisher gal? All right. So here's the solar wind data. And we got a pretty nominal field here, 6 nanotesla with a BZ of +1. Solar wind density here, 1.8 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind velocity, 417 kilometers per second. That's nominal, not really noteworthy. It's measured out here at Lagrange 1, if you're wondering. I like to orient viewers so they know where things are measured. And here is the NOAA forecast. Like I said, they updated their forecast last night. Maybe they watched the channel over there at NOAA, because they are forecasting some minor geomagnetic unrest on the 6th. So that is, they're saying it's from a coronal hole high-speed stream, though. So, okay, that is a different forecast. So we got 3 different forecasts right now. Folks, let's see who's right on Friday. Here's Earth's magnetosphere, and this is the Space Weather Modeling Framework's about 12 Earth diameters. And it uses all kinds of data, everything from the electron flux, solar wind data, magnetometers, and so on. Space weather is calm. and that's what the magnetohydrodynamic pressure looks like for the past 4 hours. The radio flux here looks like it's dropped down a little bit, so a little bit of reduction in solar radio output. Radio flux of the 10.7 centimeter variety is at about 145 solar flux units. Sunspot number stalling out here around, dropping down a little bit since yesterday. Now down to, what is that? 68 sunspots, 69 sunspots. Next, some coronagraphs. First the GOES 19, then stereo A. Is that another earthly directed CME? I don't think so. I think University of Reading has got that one covered as not earthly directed, but we're going to look at stereo A to verify. So we are including the time and date stamps here. That CME was happening about 1500 Universal Time yesterday. Here's stereo A's coronagraph. And a bunch of missing data there from stereo A. So that's not to hide doomsday, folks, because we just ain't got the kind of events that are going to cause doomsday, because there aren't the kind of events that cause doomsday. But stereo A is not going to help. So this is where planets are located. We like to show this so people, again, orient themselves. There is a planetary alignment happening here, so people are going to be like, oh my God, Neptune and Saturn and Venus and Mercury and Earth are all in a line. Therefore, I'm spooked because reasons. It's not spooky in any way. It's just ridiculous. All right, proton flux, solar energetic particles. We ain't got none. It's flatlined. Again, the X-ray flux, we saw this C-class intensification. It's only a C4 class solar flare, folks. So low levels of activity and the likelihood of large flares is not there. Let's look at the heliosphere next. Earth is in a South Pole-oriented magnetic sector. As you can see here, this depicts, that's too many days. Let's just show yesterday plus today. There's that South Pole-oriented magnetic sector. I'm sorry, did I say a current sheet? I meant the South Pole magnetic sector. No current sheets coming, but we see some action over here on the eastern limb. So there may be coronal hole activity, there may be coronal hole migration, and there may be sunspot formation happening here just behind the limb, just out of view. So, but we don't see any major active regions. If you look at the 171 angstroms wavelength, there may be some minor sunspots rising here, but nothing big. If there were something big, we'd have huge coronal filaments like these ones on the left, on the western wing, rather. The western limb, rather. Fun fact about YouTube. YouTube is basically the art of being pedantic, because if you say anything even slightly wrong, people will correct you to no end in the comment section. So that's part of the reason why we're so pedantic on YouTube channels, because people watch and then they go, hey, he said a thing wrong, and then they freak out and they go, you're a dummy, you don't understand the science terms. The difference is some channels constantly misrepresent science information, constantly shout out numbers that sound scary and have no units, and constantly misrepresent how things relate to each other, the scale of things, the size of things. It's a little disturbing. There's a lot of misinformation about space weather. It's not going to destroy civilization. Sorry, it's just not going to. So if you're waiting for that to happen, it's not going to happen. So enjoy that. Our finest days lie ahead. Doomsday prophets just lie. So this is our line of sight coronal hole plot. You can see South Pole oriented coronal holes here, and we do see some opening up. So that can explain these variations that we're seeing over here, as that South Pole oriented coronal hole looks like it's getting bigger, but that's actual migration there. That's not just a measuring thing. That really the South Pole oriented coronal hole there, it looks like it is actually spreading, because stereo B which is this dot right here. Stereo B does have a magnetometer, and so does stereo A. So that data is derived from 7 ground-based magnetometers, stereo B and stereo A. So yeah, this South Pole-oriented coronal hole, it is opening up. So we may see an extended high-speed coronal hole wind stream from that. Don't expect it to create any major space weather, but we could see minor geomagnetic storms. Fingers crossed for that. Mid-latitude aurora, here we come, hopefully. So next we'll look at the magnetometer from the ground-based Cerro Tololo. There you go. Again, these sunspots aren't too exciting, so we won't spend a lot of time on that. Here's red light imagery. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, that's a ground-based red light 677 nanometer filter. And this, again, this is similar to what you would see if you used your basic backyard telescope with a solar filter. Please don't aim your telescope at the sun without a real solar filter. Last but not least, for these NSO images, we'll look at Cerro Tololo's hydrogen alpha imagery. We've got some pretty decent filaments here on the solar disk facing the Earth. This one up here is name-worthy. It looks like an eyebrow. Who has your favorite eyebrows? Well, if you want to name a filament, here's how to do it. Get the last image. Take a screenshot. If you use Microsloth like I do, this computer's running on Microsloth Windows 10. You can use the snip and sketch feature to put an arrow or something to tell us which solar filament you'd like to name. Then all you got to do is take a screenshot of your edited screenshot so we know which filament you're trying to name, and then just join us over on X, otherwise known by sane people as Twitter, a brand ruined by Elon Musk. You want to name that filament after your friends, your foes, or even yourself? Just follow the hashtag #NameThatFilament. Tell us who you want to name it after. It has to be a living human. And you should follow us over on X, otherwise you'll miss a bunch of content. There's some exclusive content over there, so make sure you check it out. Electron storm has diminished here as we forecasted, so there's that. All right, sorry about that. The next Mad Max movie should be awesome. Well, hopefully it'll be less pathetic than the last 2 Mad Max movies, which were basically unwatchable. Sorry, Barb, we won't be living a Mad Max life. The zombie apocalypse, that's all canceled. The solar apocalypse, it's canceled. Canceled. Our finest days still lie ahead, no matter how much certain entities try to sabotage your future. It's just not going to work out. Doomsday has been canceled. We greatly apologize for this, but our finest days lie ahead. Doomsday prophets, they just lie. Next, the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere, electrodynamics, total electron content forecast. It shows you where GPS errors are likely to happen. It's the free electrons, the ions, all the way from ground level to the outer Van Allen belts. It's giving you a great visual of where things, ions, are located. Radio blackouts aren't that likely. These are the D-region absorption predictions, or DRAPs. But like I said, we're not expecting any major solar flares, so don't expect any major radio blackouts. That's not in the cards. Barbarian 1111 asks, who is your boogeyman? Nobody. I'm not spooked of anybody. Barb, what about you? Here are the layers of the ionosphere. And the D region is where space weather starts, by the way. And below this is where Earth weather happens. And by the way, we are just a BB King. Yes. Yes. That's a good one. Hey, this guy SV Thora sailing 4868, he knows something about music. He listened to a thing that I was playing and demonstrated, I think, greater skill than I have. He's like, "Oh, your new song Imbecile is a blues progression in the key of D or something." Cheers, way to know a thing, because I didn't know what key it was in. I just wrote the song. I am a classically trained guitarist, believe it or not. I was just a terrible student who my guitar teacher wanted to stab. All right, so yeah, that's just a diagram of the ionosphere, folks. Space weather happens from D region on up. Schumann resonances happen below the D region, which is why we don't cover them with space weather. And they're really not Earth weather either. Schumann resonances are little more than a novelty, although it does affect your brain if you are actually exposed to them. Moving right along to the ionosphere. Here's the F layer. So just to give you a reference, there's the F layer. You can see where it is at day and night time, different altitudes, different cross-sectional sizes. And things are acting pretty normal. Space weather is calm. The electron storm is subsiding. GPS performance should be largely returning to normal. And yeah, that's what the ionosphere looks like. The South Atlantic anomaly remains out here off of the equatorial west coast of South America there near the equator. The African anomaly remains over here by the African equatorial Atlantic coast. It shows up even better in the anomalygram. That's anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. And let's move to Earth weather. So that's yesterday's sunrise over the Atlantic. Here's today's lovely Atlantic sunrise. Thanks for staying tuned until the Earth weather section. We do a perfunctory view of Earth weather from sort of a global perspective. We can do local forecasts. If you've got some kind of plans or something within 72 hours, we might consider doing a forecast just for you. Note also that these lines are straightening out. And this line is going to be like perfectly straight in less than 3 weeks. That's called the spring equinox, or the vernal equinox, if you prefer. And by the way, don't forget to check out the merch shop. So we do have, for example, wheel stickers. If you want to put stickers on your carbon wheels, this goes on the right side of the wheel and this goes on the left side of the wheel, so it looks like it's burning up in the atmosphere. If you're going to put one on the front of your car, for example, this is the one you want because it looks like the middle of it's burning up in the atmosphere. And if it goes on the right side of your car, then that's the one that you use. And this is for the left side, you see? You see, that's called planning. That's what we do on the channel. We plan for the future. That's why we cover space weather, because the emphasis on space weather isn't going away ever. Civilization's not going to get destroyed. And space travel, exploration, and science will continue. So we've positioned ourselves here on purpose. And keep in mind, folks, within 18 months, you're going to be able to go to space for less than 6 figures. So that will keep a continued influence on space weather. By the way, the merch is going up in price, blanket across the entire website, because the markup is far too low for the quality of the merchandise. So get in now if you want to pick up some merch, because it's going up in price by spring. It might go up today. Shout out to the viewer that bought a t-shirt 2 days ago. Here is our water vapor map for the lower 48. As a band of dry massive air is constraining moisture over northern Pennsylvania and causing some weather. A great example there of like a blocking feature. It is a blocking feature. You can see this moisture is trying to come north, but whoops, this cold, dry air is far too massive. So it's acting like a wall and it's funneling this less massive, more moist air to where it is. Anyway, there's the full map. Once again, we've got an atmospheric river here stretching from Nevada up into Alberta. Atmospheric river, atmospheric river, atmospheric river, atmospheric river. Oh my God, folks, it's a buzzword. Look the f out. It's an atmospheric river. Dear God, what will we do? Call Mr. MBB 333 and Gina Maria Colvin Hill and tell them that there's an atmospheric river, which they certainly don't understand the physics of. We've also got this great weak low right here. So this is a great example of a weak low constrained by dry massive air. It's just holding this more moist air right in here. And you can see it's trying to rotate a little bit counterclockwise, as lows do, because it is a relative low, because again, it's surrounded by more massive air. All the hot air in Colorado can't prevent that from happening, but there it is. That's how the atmosphere works. And if you think contrails are intentional or that clouds are man-made, you probably can't pass junior high physics. So there's that. Chemtrails, still imaginary, whether or not RFK bans them. Dear RFK Jr., if you're able to get out of the hot tub in jeans awkwardly for some reason, please ban an imaginary thing, chemtrails, non-existent phenomenon here on planet Earth. Next, Doppler radar, and there's quite a bit of moisture across the country here, mainly up here in the Pacific Northwest, where it is moist. Yowzers. Portland is getting kaplastered, folks. Kaplastered. Also Spokane. We got some severe weather here making its way across Stillwater toward Bartlesville, north of Broken Arrow. Also some heavy storms here making their way into whatever that place is. Missouri. The state of misery. You're going to get kaplastered. There are some strong storms headed your way, also across Indiana and so forth. Illinois and Indiana, you're getting hit. Anyway, there's the map. I'm showing it so I don't have to explain where all the spots are. That's the beauty of visual aids. Please don't contract visual aids by looking at a bunch of shite on YouTube. All right, so here's our forecast. Shout out to our local viewer. Shout out to the Lehigh Valley Cycling Club. Today, a slight chance of rain after 3, patchy fog before 11 a.m. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, high near 50. So it's going to be wet and sloppy out there, but it's going to be kind of warm. So there's that. It stayed warm overnight because of the greenhouse effect. You know, what happens is the crust heats up, and then at night, the crust wants to lose all of its heat. And then when the crust is emitting heat, if there are especially low clouds, low clouds. If you've got low clouds, then the low clouds absorb and reflect some of that heat. They absorb and re-emit some of that infrared radiation back to the ground, which then stays warm. It's called the greenhouse effect. It's all too real. That's why cloudy nights are warm and clear nights are cold. This is why desert nights are cold, because there are rarely clouds overnight in the desert. It's called the greenhouse effect. And the main thing that causes the greenhouse effect is clouds and water vapor. Anyway, tomorrow, Thursday, showers, patchy fog before 11, high near 48. Friday, more wet conditions. So it's a great day to fix your bike, a pretty bad day to ride your bike, unless you want to get it all dirty with filthy, putrid filth and puke. Vomit and pee. If you haven't mapped your dog pee map yet, then you're screwed. See, we had extended snow here for a while, and when you walk around a suburban neighborhood, you can figure out where all those mutts and mongrels hang out, because some corners have a bunch of dog pee on them, and some corners don't have dog pee on them. So what you should have done is gone to all the corners where all the mutts and mongrels hang out and put a little yellow mark on those corners, and then you hang out on different corners. Because unless you're selling rawhide treats, why hang out with all the mutts and mongrels? That's where their owners want to stand there and update their Instagram about how amazing their puppy dog is. Let us know in the comments if you've stopped YouTube from putting videos of cute kitties in your subscription feed. Barbarian1111 asks, who wrote the physics books? Physicists throughout all of history, people like Sir Isaac Newton and so on, wrote the physics books. Here is your lightning map, and we've got some lightning strikes. Like I said, we've got some strong storms in some locations here. And hey, there's thunder rolling in somewhere there. Lightningmaps.org. I recommend it. When I hear thunder, I use it regularly. I even have it saved to my desktop on my junkware Android device. Yeah, that way I can just go to my desktop and slide over 2 screens and boom, lightningmaps.org. I hear thunder. I want to know where it's coming from because I might go outside and I'd rather not get struck, and getting struck by lightning is not something to make you into a superhero. It's a thing to make you into a super liability because burial costs. Nice. A mini dachshund. Those dogs are freaking cool. Little powerhouses. They're like a barrel-chested, medium-sized dogs with legs that are this long. I love it. Dachshunds. I love dogs, and dogs love me because I lack pretension. They know what to expect. What they can expect is somebody who's not full of shit. Are you a shit clamp? Hopefully not. Hopefully you're not some shit clamp son of a bittern like this bittern right here. It could be a daughter of a bittern. I don't know how to sex a bittern, but it's a type of bird, folks. You goddamn son of a bittern. All right, so we're going to show a forecast model for, since it's still wintertime, snow. Accumulated positive snow depth change in inches. So here it is. That is a lot of snow coming to the western part of the U.S. Once again, all the hot air in Colorado is not going to prevent that. Check it out. Wyoming is going to be damn near completely blanketed. There's one little area here who's going to be let down. But some big snow's coming. Atmospheric river, atmospheric river, atmospheric river. Let's show something that we don't show all the time. We'll show a regular radar forecast here. Since now we're getting near spring and we're going to have to show rain. So what is that? That's the precipitation, both rain and frozen, as well as the mean sea level pressure in hectopascals. So a strong low is going to form over the central U.S. there near the Nebraska Kansas border, and then it's going to move up to the northwest, and that's going to bomb out, baby. So South Dakota is going to get plastered with freezing rain and then heavy snows. There's the snowfall map. You'll see at the end here some heavy snows. So the heaviest snows are actually going to be in places like Idaho and Wyoming. But anyway, there's the map. I'm not going to try to explain it to you. That's insanity. I'm showing you the map. I went through the trouble of doing that. Why the hell would I try to explain it? All right, anyway, here are the Earth's jet streams. This is the Western world. Shout out to our viewers from the Americas. Maybe you're a Dane viewing from Greenland. Shout out to you as well. Here are the surface winds of our side of the planet. Surface winds of the Eastern world. The most popular, the most populous third of the planet. You can view about a third at a time. That's why we show thirds. Jet streams shown here. Jet streams of the central world. Shout out to our viewers from the Near East, Europe, and the Dark Continent, which would be this one. Last but not least, your surface winds shown here. We will close out, show a little bit more solar activity, like the house favorite wavelength, 171 angstroms. And let us know what your favorite EUV wavelength is. That's extreme ultraviolet. So we're talking about 193, 211, 131, 94, 171, 284. You know, what's your favorite wavelength? Mine is the 171 angstroms. It depicts the middle corona or transitional corona, and it's the best one at showing the magnetic filaments that are associated with active regions. It's not as good at showing flares or coronal holes as some other wavelengths are, but I find it to be the most aesthetically pleasing. It's the most sunny of the solar images. And typically, if you look at our merch, we're usually we do have one with 304 angstroms SDO, but primarily like on the sleeves of the SNN jersey, 171 angstroms is to me the most aesthetically pleasing of the extreme ultraviolet solar spectra. All right, so we'll do a full run here before we close this thing out. A full run of some other wavelength. We're going to show the coronal hole, the optimal coronal hole wavelength from the GOES 19, which is 195 angstroms. Also ionized iron, by the way. So these are South Pole oriented coronal holes here. And like I said, we are expecting to see some action over in this area. It looks like these coronal holes are spreading to the south. As I was saying, expect to see these eastern coronal holes appear to open up in the coming days, because like we showed you in that magnetic data, the magnetic data is very good at actually forecasting this. So here's what I'm talking about. The heliosphere, you see the way this current sheet is moving to the east? That's an indication that that coronal hole is growing. So that plus this, we're actually seeing a little bit of that here. This is a little more accurate than this because the solar corona is very bumpy. So as this turns in, you can't necessarily see this action going on. Also, keep in mind this only shows about 12 hours. So, but we'll show also the 304 angstroms wavelength once that runs through one more time, and then we'll close this thing out. So if you've got comments to leave, now's a good time to leave them because the stream's about to end. So please press the share button. Visit the link in the description to the homepage. Press share. Hit us up on social media. If you want to name this filament, this one up here, do it over on Twitter. Name it after your friends, your foes, or even yourself. Solar filaments are lively, and so that's why we name them the way we do, after living people. They don't have to, they could be brain dead. You probably have some brain dead friends, maybe family members. Maybe you've got some cultists in your family. I'll bet you do, since cult membership is at an all-time high in 2026. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I'm going to let this play all the way through. That's the ionized helium, by the way. The sun produces more at solar maximum, and you can see these white areas, they're very high in helium. These black areas, they're very low in helium. It's a heliumograph. So yeah, that's where we'll close out. This wavelength is great at showing solar flares, solar filaments, prominences. It even shows coronal holes sometimes. So that's where we'll close out. In the meantime, I've been your host, Dan, aka Smash-O-Mash, signing off. And until next we speak, may that solar wind be at your back and that nonsense absent from your YouTube subscription feed. Opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, the posted name in news.